We're back, and Zim has arrived.
That's right, Paul. A lot of news breaking out of Athens today regarding Georgia's early entry, so we want to update you on that real quick. Left tackle Andrew Thomas has declared for the NFL draft. Right tackle Isaiah Wilson has as well. They will not play in the Sugar Bowl. There has been some reports of DeAndre Swift and other juniors. Nothing official on those players yet, but that is expected to be announced later today, their decisions. And that leads us into today's headlines. The Georgia Bulldogs, another player who might be missing the Sugar Bowl is James Cook, the running back. He was arrested on an open container charge during a traffic stop Saturday, but during the stop, he admitted to police he had been smoking marijuana. He was not charged with marijuana possession, but according to the AJC, Cook would be in violation of the school's marijuana use policy that carries a 1-game suspension. No official word from Georgia on his status. And in other news, former Tennessee offensive lineman Ryan Johnson says he is transferring to Georgia Tech. This decision comes 2 weeks after Johnson entered the transfer portal. Johnson started all 12 games for the Vols in 2018, but only had 3 starts this season. And speaking of the transfer portal, some news from College Station. Texas A&M sophomore running back Jashawn Corbin is in the transfer portal. Remember, he started the season as their starting running back. He was supposed to fill the shoes of Travion Williams, but suffered a season-ending injury in the Clemson game. Isaiah Spiller filled in as a freshman for the Aggies this year. And Paul, we were talking earlier about the South Carolina decade. We have some big news from South Carolina. It could be their biggest news of the decade. They will sell alcohol starting January 1st. They've approved alcohol sales at South Carolina.
And we had a fan called up and said if the team continues on its current path, alcohol sales will be good.
Yeah, they will be good. They'll start doing that at Colonial Arena. And again, we will follow the story from Athens. There could be some more juniors announcing.
I don't know why it just seems like last year all over again.
It does. Well, you recruit well, guys leave early.
All them dogs are counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and swamp, the Aggies wrong. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprise.
Hit him with the flex.
From Williams by Death Valley. On the Finebaum show, Paul's on the roll. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul. He'll make sense of it all.
What's going on, Baba?
Needles up on Rocky Top. The Razorbacks are hard to stop. War Eagles soaring in the wind.
Let me talk, Tammy. Okay, go.
Tigers rocking in the zoo. Wildcats are grinning too. Talk about the tide that's rolling in. The weekend's full of surprises. From big upsets to robberies. On the Finebaum show, heads are gonna roll. If they don't get the best of me, we'll call Paul. He'll make sense of it all.
Don't take those calls.
I could give you my address and phone number if you're ever in this neck of the woods.
This is the Paul Finebaum show. It's not Jerry Springer, right?
We welcome you to the second part of the show, second half. Spurrier on deck about an hour from now. That's always a special event. Glad you're with us. More of your calls at 855-242-7285. Yeah, Paul is up next in South Carolina. Hello, Paul.
Hey, how you doing? First time caller. Thank you for taking my call.
Well, thank you. Glad you made it in.
I appreciate you doing the little segment on South Carolina Gamecocks. I'm a longtime Gamecock fan. Been disappointed a lot, but the Spurrier years were some good years. We had some good games. 3 years, 3 11-win seasons, but some of us old-time Gamecock fans, we refer back to the '85 season with Joe Morrison.
Oh yeah,
that was a great year. We had
undefeated until the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that would have been our first chance to play for our national championship, but it didn't work out. But maybe one day. But I agree with the earlier caller about the recruiting. When you finish like 14th, 18th, you end up at the bottom of the SEC. And let's face it, the SEC has got so much talent. It's like playing in a semi-pro league, because it's just so much talent there. And then if you're not losing to a SEC team on the recruiting, you're losing to, as our former coach would say, that team in the upstate. We don't want to talk about them too much.
I like
but they've
that.
been having some good years. I have to put my hat off to them, I just thank you for taking my call. Joe Morrison left us way too early. He's just known as one of the great coaches
You're right.
in South Carolina Gamecock history.
I believe you're right. I think it was 84 season. Gamecocks nearly ran the table. Thank you very much for the call. Nice of you to call. John is in Memphis. Good town
Afternoon,
to be
Paul.
from. Hey, John.
Got one comment and two questions. First of all, watching Drew Brees last night was unbelievable. Unbelievable. So my first question is, and this comes up every year when they talk about how Saban bypassed him to go for Culpepper.
Right.
And I've read a number of articles that clearly state that he wanted nothing to do with Culpepper, and when he realized he didn't have control, that's when he left.
Well, the story I've been told, and it comes from Nick Saban, is that he wanted Drew Brees, but the medical staff would not sign off on him, so they wouldn't approve it. And the owner, Wayne Huizinga, decided they couldn't take a chance.
Okay, but so the point is, it really wasn't Saban that didn't want him; they just wouldn't let him have him, right?
Well, no. I mean, Saban says he did want Drew Brees, but the sports medicine people said he wasn't healthy enough. So the owner said, "I'm not investing tens of millions of dollars in a guy that the medical staff will not endorse."
How'd that work out? So the second question-
Good for Alabama, bad for Miami.
I know this is a total fantasy. Is there any way that the Saints could dangle Teddy Bridgewater to Cincinnati to get the first pick and get Burrow?
They could dangle him, but why would Cincinnati want Teddy Bridgewater?
I don't know.
They wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, listen, he's a good backup quarterback. He did well when Drew Brees was out, but I don't think they're going to. Listen, it's kind of a cliche. Remember, you go to the car lot and you buy your new car, and they always joke the second you pull out and turn right, the value of it goes down.
Yeah.
Same with Teddy Bridgewater.
Andy Dalton pretty much said he's done.
Andy, thanks for letting us know what we already knew. Still got great red hair, though.
Have a Merry Christmas. And you're not on next week, right?
This week?
Next week.
We're not on. We're on part of the week. Thanks for the call. Well, you're here all week. We're here until Friday, through Friday. And don't forget, Friday night we'll have, I was about to say commissioner. Archbishop. Yeah. He wants to be a commissioner, he can be a commissioner. He's the commissioner of the Catholic Church of the Vatican. Archbishop Marino will be with us. We will not be here Monday. I take it back. We may be here Monday. We don't. Okay, we're not here Tuesday and Wednesday. We're thinking about Monday letting Larry from Shelby sit in. So just tune in for the 30 seconds that he lasts. And that sounded wrong, by the way. Thursday and Friday we will be on live from Atlanta. So we're here part of the week. So we're basically taking off what? Not much. We don't want to go too far. Show's too valuable, and our security here is too tenuous. Let's go to Craig in Mississippi. Hello, Craig. Craig,
hey,
you there?
Paul.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, I had something I wanted to kind of pick your brain about a little bit on the college football playoff. One of the things that kind of, a while back they talked about if they go to 8 games, it would actually add another game to the teams playing in the playoffs.
Yes.
And one of the things that came up there was how can you limit the number of games? And I come up with an idea that I think would solve the problem. Is like at the end of the year when you have like the SEC playoff, that instead of like you have the top two teams, the top team from the East plays the top team from the West. If every team would drop one of the cupcakes, like one of the Western Carolina, something like that, and then at the end of the season, when number one plays number one from the East plays number one from the West, number two from the East plays number two from the West, all the way down through number 7, and that would give you your nine-game schedule for the SEC to be playing 9 games in one season. What do you think about that? Like if they did something
Well,
like
I mean,
that,
listen, I think it's great that everyone has ideas, but I'm also a realist, and I know that nothing is going to change.
Well, see, this would, like, as far as like money, to me, like the SEC should be like interested in something like that because they've been pressured to try to go to a 9-game season anyway, and this would actually give them the 9 conference games, and then you'd have like at the end of this season you would have Alabama playing Florida, and it would have gave both of them teams a chance to maybe improve their bowl game or something like that, But it looks to me like you get a lot more money, out of that than you would a couple of Western Carolina
Craig,
games.
and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but you just have to understand how difficult it is to get any change in intercollegiate athletics. And all these plans that people are calling are great at the end of a bar. But I can assure you that the conference commissioners and the people that run intercollegiate athletics like it the way they have it. And even if they don't, they're not going to tell you they don't because they are stubborn people. And they are very slow to change without having called a meeting, formulating a commission, going off to some island to talk about the next meeting where they show up and decide to have another meeting. You get the idea? Thought you would. But thanks for the suggestion, though. Fisher is up next. Hey, Fisher.
Hey, Paul, first-time caller. I got a profound quote here from one of my favorite cartoons, and I'm going to say it, and it's from Popeye. Me done took all me can stands, and me can't stand no more, Paul. I'm not going to stand by and let not one more LSU fan, a brand-new winner, get on this show and say somebody whooped Alabama's ass. Now, I'm an educator, Paul, and I know definitions like the back of my hand. And a 5-point win over a one-legged quarterback is not an ass-whipping. Now, I'll tell you what an ass-whipping is, Paul. An ass-whipping is a 29-0 blanket in your own home stadium last year. So these LSU fans need to get used to winning and then don't say nothing else about Alabama's ass done got whooped. That's been a long time since we had a true ass-whipping. Now, we may have lost the game.
Well,
we may have gotten out-coached.
Hold on a second, Fisher.
Fisher,
hold on a second. Now, listen, I'm not going to quibble. I'm not going to be a lawyer here and say that LSU had a 20-point lead. That doesn't matter. And you are correct. 29-0 last year in Tiger Stadium, that's an ass-whipping. You know what else is an ass-whipping? Losing the national championship game by 28. That is an ass-whipping. And I can't believe I've said that word 3 straight times. I just wanted to make a point. We head to a break. I apologize to anyone I offended. I shouldn't have done it. I will... I'm going to confession right now. Not really.
Have they?
They've had 10-win seasons.
Is that the Florida standard?
Bowl wins.
This is a team that's won national championships
They've had
in the previous 2 decades.
2 great coaches and 2 very pedestrian coaches.
How would you describe the Gators' decade, Paul?
Like watching the Dow Jones at triple witching hour. Jim Cramer.
You think back to what Florida had in the 90s under Spurrier, right? And then the 2000s under Urban.
Yep.
I was looking at their record because you're like, is it that up and down? And, Urban's last year was 2010. And then they went with Muschamp. And Muschamp had an 11-win season and followed that up with a 4-8 campaign.
Yeah, that 2012 year.
And it's... McElwain came in, 10 wins.
Yeah, McElwain's record wasn't bad.
No. No, it wasn't.
Neither was his record of saying ridiculous things. Right? It was even better.
By the way, you're being charitable.
Yeah.
All right, so here's our Mount Rushmore, which is
this one was tough.
This one was tough.
Some of these have been tough because it's like, oh, who makes the cut? Who gets in?
Well, you
This
remember,
one-
it's a finite period of time.
This one was pretty tough just to find 4 guys to go on this mountain. I gotta
Tease
say.
Tabor,
Dante Fowler.
Vernon Hargraves,
Yeah.
and Jordan Reed. So there's others.
If your name is Jordan, you get on all these Mount Rushmore.
yeah, you picked up the key. The trick is on this, Paul, is that like there were a lot of great players that came through.
That's a rough
But some well, Will Greer was very
Will
good. but he
Greer was
left.
great. He just
Right.
what he played 6 games as a
Right.
starter.
I wanted to put Greer, Driscoll, Jacoby Brissett, and Treon Harris on that mountain, but they wouldn't let me. So
Right.
By the way,
and
Will
that-
Greer is going to be a starter in the NFL next Sunday.
let's
Right.
go.
Callaway was out there possibly, but again, suspensions. You can't be on the Mount Rushmore with
Yeah.
suspensions in college.
They've
So-
had some
The running
pretty
back that was
decent
so
running
good, but
backs,
Never,
but
what was his name? Got suspended for the Michigan game.
last year
With a
I've drawn
P.
a blank.
Samaje
Lem-
P. Ryan.
Was it
No,
P.
that was-
Ryan?
That's
No,
Oklahoma.
was that
LaMichael
the-
P. Ryan.
Michael P. Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was close with the
He's
P.
trying
Ryans.
to play his way onto that mountain, but it
He
Let's
got
get Pat
halfway up.
Dooley. Let's get Pat Dooley's take on it.
Okay, we're back. Pat Dooley joining us. Pat, we talked earlier on your podcast, and we've had a difficult time coming up with 4 players that deserve to be on the 10-year period of Mount Rushmore for the Gators. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul, how you doing, buddy?
We are doing okay. What's going on down there?
Yeah, it's funny because we're doing a thing similar for the decade where we're picking a best athlete or best Gator athlete in every sport, which is some of them are pretty easy.
Yeah.
You've got Caleb Dressel, Grant Holloway, and guys like that. But when it got to football, we're struggling with it. I mean, there's just nobody that really stands out, and some of the ones that do, for example, Antonio Callaway, certainly worthy of it, but then had to sit out his whole last year for being involved in credit card fraud. Also had some other problems. So it's not a great. It kind of tells you what the decade's like and how Florida is kind of coming out of it. Almost like a chrysalis. Coming out of this dark cocoon they've been in.
But listen, it seems to me, and I know it probably seems to you, that they have come out of it. I mean, these last 2 years, if the two of us had gotten together and say, okay, give me a 1-loss record, I don't think either one of us would have hit the number that Dan Mullen put on the board.
No, to get to 21 with a chance at 22 is certainly better than what we thought. Now, obviously, because they were 4-7. Now 4-7 was a little bit of a skewed record because obviously McElwain got fired in the middle of the season. Nobody was really playing hard. Nobody was coaching hard, to be honest with you. So, but still, to go from that to what he's been able to do, I think he's surprised a lot of people. He surprised me in a lot of ways in his ability to win games that maybe they didn't play their best. And we've seen so many coaches come through here, and certainly recently, that struggle to win those kind of games. And we went from the whole Spurrier era where they blew everybody away to the Urban era where he kind of was a mixture of both of it. But the other guys that have been around here before Dan Mullen have really struggled to win tough, tight games where you had to get a break here and there. You had to get, where you could play down to the level of your opponent and still find a way to pull it out at the end.
Let's talk about this bowl game for a second, Pat. Orange Bowl, that's big. But why does it not feel big?
Yeah, the opponent, there's no question about it. And we've been fielding a lot of calls here on the radio about, a lot of people aren't happy. They aren't thrilled, and it's because they see right through the committee. I mean, the committee put Virginia at number 24 because they didn't want them to have a New Year's Six bowl with an unranked team. Virginia had no business. They gave up 62 in their last game. Had no business being ranked. But I think Virginia's team is better than what they showed. They were without their best receiver, best defensive player, and all that. But it just doesn't, like last year, everybody was so excited to go play Michigan, even though Michigan had spanked them just a few years ago in a bowl game, because it was more of a, well, you don't have as much to lose. I think that's one thing that drives the Gator fans right now is you feel like you've got a lot to lose
if you lose to Virginia, it's to the ACC. It's to a team that's in its second ever major bowl game, the other one being a 90 against Tennessee. You know, it doesn't feel like the kind of team this season deserves to be playing against. But at the same time, it's a better chance to win and get to 11 wins, and you'll probably end up ranked ahead of Georgia, because I don't know if Georgia's going to show up for their bowl game again.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that, Pat, because we started the season with a couple of people who really had high hopes for the Gators, but it just seemed like Georgia was indestructible and immovable. And I'm wondering what the Gator view of the Dogs currently are, because a bunch of players are coming out. The program, to be ranked number 5 in the country, seems like it has a lot of questions about the future.
Yeah, it does. I think a lot of people, it's kind of funny. They were rewarded for nice wins and not penalized for bad losses. I mean, they had two losses about as bad as you can get, losing to a 4-8 South Carolina team at home, and then not even being competitive against LSU in the championship game. I know they had a lot of injuries, and that's what people are looking at. But Georgia's still going to recruit well again this year. You just feel like, and I think that's the feeling here, is there was a gap, and it's closed up a little bit. It's not all the way closed by any means in terms of talent, but they feel like, at least this is Florida fans' perspective, that they've got a coaching advantage. They've got, as Charlie Weiss once said, a schematic advantage. And if they can get to where they're even with Georgia in terms of personnel, or close to even, they can be the better program and they can win championships. And that's what the goal is. So, but they're going to lose an awful lot of players off this year's team, and we'll see how that all matches up in terms of, the talent level going into next year, depending on who leaves and who doesn't leave. And obviously they're about to sign a really good class, too, that's kind of keeping up with Georgia's.
I want to ask you about recruiting, because it is tomorrow, and as great as Florida has been lately, or as good as Florida has been, recruiting always seems to be that. Oh, and by the way, what's going on recruiting-wise? Is it getting better?
Yeah, there's no doubt it's gotten better. It's not where they need it to be yet, and I don't think it will get there until they're playing in a playoff game. And the other thing, obviously, is they're still a year and a half away from having their facility built, which has become the new thing. You got to have one. Florida kind of waited around a little bit long, and now they've got theirs. Will be going up as soon as baseball is over this year. They will knock that down. I hope to be on the plunger, to press the plunger there to knock that stadium down, and then build this. And we've seen all the artist rendition, and it looks like what you would expect if you're spending $70 million in what Clemson did and what LSU's done and everybody else. So, it's going to be that's going to change the game a little bit, but you've still got to keep winning. It's funny. I was just talking about this with Jeff Cardozo here. Dan's got this thing that he says about the crowds and about fans, and he says, look, we'll start winning when you show up, not the other way around. And I don't think people bought into that the first year. The second year, they kind of bought into that. We are going to show up and to help you win, not if you win, we'll start coming to the games. But with the players and recruiting, it's still, you start winning and we'll show up. We'll come to your school if you start winning. But nobody wants to go to 6-6 and 5-7 and stuff like that. So they've had to kind of see Dan and this program do what they've done the last 2 years. You're going to see a class that's probably going to end up 6 or 7, somewhere in there, which is certainly not too shabby. And as they go forward, if they can get into the playoffs, and once they get this big building built, I think Florida's going to be right there in terms of recruiting with everybody.
Two-pronged question before you go, Pat. First of all, Mullen addressed it yesterday. I mean, there's some scattershotting rumors about Dan Mullen and the Cowboys, but that job remains a mystery. The connection's obvious. Dak Prescott. What did he say?
Well, he basically said, look, I think we're about to build something special here, about to build a championship here. But he didn't totally say there's no way I would ever go to the NFL. He basically said, look, who knows what happens down the road? Who knows if I might be interested in something? And again, here's a guy who later this or actually next year, next summer, is going to probably be receiving an extension, why not keep a little leverage there? And the Dallas job could be leverage for him at some point. But I think he feels like he's got something left to do here. That whole story is basically people connecting dots, and you go from the one dot of Jerry Jones is going to get rid of Garrett, which he hadn't done yet, but he's going to get rid of him, to you want to sign Dak Prescott to a big contract, to who was his coach in college and had the most success with him. And I think it doesn't mean that they're interested in him or that he's interested in them. I would never say never on anything, and I think that's basically what he's saying. Never say never. They may come in and offer me $12 million. I'll go with it. Maybe he can hire me to be his PR guy.
Final question on Urban Meyer. Why is Urban Meyer dancing around for jobs in the NFL? Or maybe it's my imagination, but he said he'd take the Cowboys job. He shows up at Danny Snyder's Bucs, albeit to be with an old player. But is this normal for Urban to be doing what he's doing, or is he doing anything other than just going to football games?
Well, I think as much as anything, he's bored. He's got to find something to do. So he's going in again. He wanted to visit with Alex Smith, obviously, but maybe he has changed and wants to be an NFL coach. There's no doubt he wants to coach. I don't think anybody thinks that he doesn't want to coach again. I didn't feel like he was an NFL type coach because he's a bit of a rah guy behind closed doors. But I think a lot of us were surprised with the USC thing. We all thought that was going to happen. Perhaps they couldn't work a deal out. Perhaps he doesn't want to recruit anymore. Perhaps that part of it has gotten to his. And I think that's why Bobby Stoops had no interest in any of these jobs that opened up. So maybe he is interested in the NFL, but I think he's been that kind of guy where when he was off here before for that off season where he didn't coach, and then again when he quit for a year, he did a lot of travel. He was everywhere, and he likes to do that. He likes to get out and likes to see a lot of different things, a lot of different games and everything. So I don't know that he's necessarily auditioning. I would, if I was his friend, I would steer him away from that Washington game.
Oh my goodness! Can you imagine Spurrier laughing about that one?
Yeah.
No, we'll ask him. He'll be on in 30 minutes.
Well, ask him about that.
We will. I'm glad you suggested. Hey, thanks, Pat. Great to have you on.
Anytime, man. I appreciate you coming on too on the podcast. Thanks, buddy.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Was on with Pat's earlier on his podcast. We are going to take a break. And that will be a question for Steve Spurrier. I'm sure he's preparing the answer right now. Okay, you heard from Pat, who's covered the team for a couple of years. Good stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, it started out. Pat said the same thing that we were talking about here. Like, it's tough to find a standout player that is just redefined Florida football, especially when you come off of a decade where you had Tim Tebow in there.
Right. We kicked around the idea of putting the ghost of Tim Tebow on that Mount Rushmore. I thought the kid, the Publix grocery bagger who ran the fake field goal in back in 2014. If I could remembered his name, I would have nominated him.
Well, they did have some good games, Paul. I mean, look at their best. We got some of their best games here. Charlie, there we are. In 2010, they beat Georgia.
They sure did.
Right, that was good. In 2012, they beat a very good South Carolina team. That was also very good. South Carolina beat Georgia that year. They had two SEC championship game appearances, but
both terrible.
Yeah. They beat a very good Mississippi State team. Or Ole Miss team.
Brandon Powell, who could forget?
And they beat Tennessee.
They do that every year.
But this is the one play that defined it, the decade for Florida, right here.
Snap to Franks. Franks dropping back, stepping up, running the ball, looking. He's going to heave one deep down the field. It's going to be to the goal line. It's going to be caught. It's a touchdown. And the Gators have won the game. Tyree Cleveland. Oh, my. I can't believe what I just saw. insane asylum again. Oh my ball game! Gators have beaten Tennessee again.
So
who could forget?
Maybe it speaks volumes.
Just like they drew it up there.
Yeah, maybe it speaks volumes to what Florida's decade is, that the player that made the play that defines the decade is also now transferring to Kansas, probably. You know,
that's college football.
Right.
But
you know,
that's what the Florida QBs do these days.
So, where do you see the
decade.
trajectory of Florida moving forward, Paul? I mean,
Well, it's all about one thing: beating Georgia. And until they beat Georgia, they're not going to get to the playoffs, and they're not going to quite take the next step. I mean, this is a program that's won 2 national championships in relatively short order in 06 and in 08. So they had other shots. So this is not one of these, hey, we're happy to win 6 games type of program. Glad you're back with us. Steve Spurrier, 30 minutes away, and let us continue with Chris, who is up next. Chris, you there?
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, good.
Yes, sir. I'm an Alabama fan, and I have had a beef with one of your callers for the longest, Paul.
Okay.
And
what's your beef?
I've just been waiting for the right time to call in, and today is that day. He's constantly putting down the Bama Nation.
Mm-hmm.
On social media, on your show constantly, and he's out there listening right now. He called in earlier, and that's Mr. I-Man.
Yeah.
So, Mr. I-Man, you know, I don't know what you have against the University of Alabama, Nick Saban, and the football team, and us fans in particular. Just because some of us fans don't call into the show doesn't mean that we're scared to call in or because we lost to your beloved Auburn Tigers. So I'd appreciate it if you would not, for one, refer to us as Bammers that you like to refer us to, and stick with your own traditions, your own team there in Lee County, and I just don't understand why he has such a beef with our football team. He can't call into your show, Paul, without talking about something about the University of Alabama. He either talks about Nick Saban, the fans, or the football team. Every time I've ever heard him, he won't talk about his team. He has to talk about Alabama, and I just find that so flattering. Daryl from Georgia's the same way. But I don't know. I just been waiting for the right time to call in, and maybe he'll call back. But I just, as an Alabama fan, you know, I love my team, and there's a lot of fans that love and support the team. And he's just very annoying. And if I was an Auburn fan, I would be embarrassed to have him as an Auburn fan.
Well, Chris, thank you for sharing that very important
I'm sorry.
information.
I just
and
had to.
that's
I just
okay.
had to air
No, I'm
that out,
glad you
Paul.
listen. I'm not a psychiatrist, but sometimes it's cathartic to get it out of your system, and it seems like you did. Thanks for the call. Jason is up next. Hello, Jason.
Hey, how you doing today, Paul?
Hey, we're doing great.
Are you guys ready for the holidays?
Yeah, we are. I'm going out shopping tonight. What do you guys want?
Well, I just wanted to talk to some of these fair weather, and I know there are a couple of real Bama fans, but I keep hearing on your show they won't root for LSU, they won't root for this team or that team. I live over here in Mississippi, and we got a plethora of fair weather Bama fans. They're all talking about what Jalen's going to do to LSU. You know, not one of them will put their money where their mouth is. Not one. I offered somebody 21 points. They wouldn't take the bet.
I'll take it.
I'm sure you would. I would too. But, I mean, they're fair weather people, and when things ain't
You
going
talking about
well,
Bama? I mean, Bama fans?
Bama fans, yes. Most of them are just fair weather fans. They didn't know who Bama was. They don't know who the coach was before Saban.
It was Bryant, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what they think. Like I said, most.
Well, let me be a Bama fan for a minute, okay? Jason, who you a fan of?
I used to think you were, but come to find out, you just call it like you see.
Who you a fan of?
I'm a LSU Tiger fan, sir.
You guys haven't done nothing.
That's right, we haven't.
I mean, you got a coach. Your coach doesn't even have a name. He just has a letter.
That's right, but we still needed a
Coach
Brinks
O.
truck at the award ceremony last week. Alabama.
You got a quarterback who couldn't even win the starting job at Ohio State.
That's right. And Ohio State has a quarterback who couldn't start in the SEC. How you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, we beat you like 100 times before you beat us.
Yeah, y'all keep saying 8 years in a row, but you can't add 2012 to 18 is 7 years, not
okay.
8.
Well, we counted this one.
Hey, y'all thought it was going to be a victory for the game. I even heard Mr. Finebaum say something about
well, he doesn't know
LSU
anything.
got
He's
the
a
win for
Bammer.
next year.
He lives in Nick Saban's pool house. I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing. They're LSU Tiger fan. We got Nick Saban. We're going to be fine.
And we have our entire coaching staff back next year.
Well, we'll have at least one or two guys back.
They're all coming back.
Yeah, we'll have. Let's see, who's coming back for? We'll have Sark back.
Are you sure?
No, he's not going anywhere. Saban has him locked in the dungeon. We don't want anybody else.
Well,
we'll go get Kiffin from Florida Atlantic.
Nah, I think Saban is fixing to start making his bye week. One bye week before Ole Miss, one bye week before LSU.
Hey, I got this to say to you, Jason. This phone call is not fair. You didn't give me enough time to respond.
Look, I love your show.
Need
you
one
guys
more
have
second.
A great holiday. Our Christmas will be held December 28th, and then our New Year is January 13th.
Well, I tell you what, I will see you in Atlanta and New Orleans, and I'll make a side trip to Orlando to comfort the Bama fans on New Year's Day. We are going to take a break. We are having too much fun, and we're not even done yet. Steve Spurrier, he'll be with us in a few minutes.
What do you think of Lane Kiffin being back in the SEC? You get to play him next year.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. No, I like Lane. I think Lane's a great football coach, does a great job. Obviously has great personality and is a fun personality in college football. Obviously, there was the rating system they put out the other day. People they'd go to Vegas with him over me. I think I'm a good time guy though. I have a lot of fun too. I'm obviously not on. What is he? Might not be Joey Freshwater fun, but right? Is that what? But we do try to make it fun. Now, I mean, if you look, everything about the schedule is to not make it grinding at all for the players, but to make it. But when it is time to work, we work. And talk to them constantly. There's plenty of time off. We're going to give them lots of free time, both here and when we get to Miami. But when it's time for football, we are completely locked in. The bowl experience is awesome, but the bowl experience is always better when you win the game. Just your even memory, everything about the game is better when you win. And so, with that being said, our guys have got to make sure they're locked in to when it's time for football, it's time for football. In our preparation, we're completely locked in. There'll be plenty of time to have fun, but we're locked in when it's time to be locked in. This is a team that played for their conference championship, and still won their division. And, when you're able to look at those things of what they did, I think Michigan got in like us last year, right? They were at large like us. Yeah. So they kind of got in at large. This is a team that, had an automatic bid playing for their conference championship. So I I think that's just a little different deal for our guys and getting ready to play. I think one of the big keys of the bowl game, too, it's not always your opponent, it's you. You know, I mean, you're going to look, it's been a month since we played a game. You know, do we have that mental and physical toughness within our how we prepare and how we go execute in the game when we haven't been, you know, when you kind of in-season routine of going every week. You take all this time off. Do you have the mental and physical toughness to prepare and execute at an extremely high level? And I think you'll see that in a lot of bowl games. You know, I mean, it's not always just your opponent. It has a lot to do with yourself as a team to have success in bowl games.
Welcome back, y'all. What a show on this Tuesday. Reminder, we will be here the remainder of the week. No vacation, no holiday for us. We're here gift wrapping and helping the less fortunate, like the Alabama callers today. Stephen is up next in Georgia. Hello, Stephen.
Paul, you know what? I've always heard about the Bama melt until today when I knew it was true. When Chris with his Alabama pacifier calling in, telling you it's not fair that people are picking on my football team, my man. Please don't pick on my poor Bammers. We don't do nothing. The melt is real, and this offseason is going to be a lot of fun in Paul Finebaum land. A lot of fun.
You think so?
Oh, the Bammer melt is real.
See, last year, I was telling somebody this morning on a show that the Clemson loss was about okay. We're going to get them back. Remember,
right? Exactly.
It was all about redemption. That's now gone. So what's this offseason about?
It's about don't pick on us. We have Nick Saban,
yeah,
and you don't, maybe.
Here, I just did a bumper sticker. I ordered 10,000. We have Saban. We'll be fine.
Exactly. Hey, I was going to ask you, are you scared about getting punched by Larry?
No, listen, I do not challenge people very often when you weigh 110 pounds and look like me. But if Larry would like to meet me in a ring, I'll wait for him in the ring. I don't think he can get in the ring.
Well, you know, and
they have cranes. David Upton, my good friend from Crane Works, one of our sponsors back in Birmingham. Could he get a crane to lift up Larry and put him in the ring for the 15-rounder? Can you listen? Can you imagine? I mean, the wheezing that Larry would go through just to step into the ring.
And not to mention, he's going to have to close one eye to throw a straight punch.
And by the way, I'm not trying to act like I'm, at my point in life, I'm in that great a physical condition. But with help, I could probably get in the ring.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, I guarantee you can outrun him.
And I'll take my chances in trunks and boxing gloves. I mean, can you imagine Larry?
Do they have a 3XL?
The Larry versus Finebaum.
I think it's must. I think we can give whatever we make on the battle to charity. We can have those big gloves, can't we? Yeah. Can you get hurt with those big gloves? No. Too bad.
You know what? And I bet you could even rent out the MGM in Vegas for this one, Paul.
Listen, I'll do it wherever we have to do it. But I'm just tired of him bad-mouthing me every day.
And he always resorts to violence, too.
Yeah, I'm going to punch you.
Classic stuff. Hey, Ken, we talk about Texas A&M right quick, 2020?
Let's do it.
All right. I don't know if you can pull up their schedule, but I've always
Oh, it's automatic. They're going to have a great year.
The third-year coach, right, this is Jimbo Fisher's $7.5 million telltale year. I don't see a loss on the schedule. I see them going 10-0. I might be wrong. The Auburn game is tricky for me.
Okay, we're going to drop the schedule on people here. I've looked at it. It's a 10-win, easily a 10-win season. You're saying maybe more, but the hard games are gone. I mean, other than Alabama and LSU.
I mean, and Alabama might be a pushover next year.
Well, come on. Let's. Okay, here's the schedule: Abilene Christian, North Texas, Colorado, Arkansas, 4-0 at Mississippi State, Fresno State, at Auburn, at South Carolina, Ole Miss, Vandy at bat. Boy, the season ends rather poorly, I might say.
I mean,
Wow.
they have back-to-back, but I mean, Auburn's losing their entire offensive and defensive line, so I'm unsure what Gus can do.
I think 10
trying to
wins
clear
is.
that up.
I think 10 is doable.
I mean, if he loses to either Mississippi State or Mississippi next year, a lot of people in Aggie land are not going to be happy.
Well, no. I mean, listen, it is an important year, but it's not life or death. It's not like Will Muschamp. Well, I take it back. I mean, based on what I heard from Josh Kendall today, I mean, Will Muschamp, if he wins 6 games, everyone will be fine. That's good.
But you know what? That's what that program has become in this day. Is
You're right.
getting into a bowl
But
game and being
A&M is
happy.
not that pro. Hey, good to have you on. Thank you. Andy is in Kentucky, and you are next up.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can. That would be a yes.
Okay, Paul. Just want to tell you that love your show, and
Thank
I think
you.
you're an asset to the SEC.
Thank you very much.
Proud to have you. Proud to watch. You just got a quick comment and a question. You know, as a Kentucky football fan, it's hard to stay engaged. You know, we come through the Rich Brooks years, which were great. Had Andre Woodson with us, and we kind of suffered through Joker years. Now we got Mark Stoops. It seems like every year we get better and better. And now we got a transfer coming in from Auburn next year, Gatewood.
He is really
And
good.
I just want to get you. Well, that's what I've been hearing. I just want to get your thoughts on where you think Kentucky will look next year, what will pan out, and especially the quarterback situation.
Yeah, listen, a lot of people at Auburn were unhappy. Now, I don't know. I mean, I think Bo Nix is a fantastic quarterback who just had he made a couple of mistakes as a young person, but he'll get over that. But Joey Gatewood is very versatile. He can do everything. I've heard some Cam Newton comparisons. I've heard some other comparisons. I think in that system, he'll do extremely well. I am a huge Mark Stoops fan. I think he's just continually underrated. And I thought, considering they literally threw that Florida game away this year with a missed field goal, I thought they had a good season.
Yeah, I agree. I think each year he gets more and more wins, and they continue to go to bowl games. So I really like where Kentucky stands with Stoops. Hey, Paul, appreciate your time, sir. I just want to give a shout out to my dad, Gene, and Coach Brannick down there in Barnesville, Georgia. And I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you very much. We are heading to the final hour. Coach Spurrier will join us in a minute. That is always must see. We are coming right back.